What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here, and welcome to our daily show where we discuss all stimulus packages, the fourth stimulus check update, the infrastructure and next stimulus package, as well as dozens of other stimulus packages, or I should say different stimulus provisions that are already passed from the third stimulus package and are becoming available now, as well as what is on the block for the next stimulus/infrastructure package. There's about 15 or 20 different stimulus items that they're currently negotiating for the next stimulus package. So if you're new to the channel or if you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe down below. It's completely free to do so. This way you won't miss out on new updates. Remember, new videos come out on my channel here at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every single day. And I will be bringing you the latest information on the negotiation talks, the next stimulus packages, as well as stimulus money and checks that are going out through various different stimulus programs, such as mortgage assistance, rental assistance, property tax assistance, utility assistance, state stimulus checks, county stimulus checks, and county and state stimulus programs, which we're going to be seeing a lot more of here in the near future. In fact, I'm going to have another video on that here soon, because states and cities are getting about $350 billion from the third stimulus check package and are announcing stimulus checks on the states for certain states, as well as certain cities and certain counties. California is the largest one, announcing their second round of a $600 stimulus check for up to 2/3 of all Californians, which is about 25 million people. So I'll be keeping you up to date with all of those. Also, if you can, give this video a like. It tells YouTube that you like these videos and that I'm doing a good job. One of those stimulus programs that a lot of people are waiting on checks right now is from the third stimulus check package. It was a provision that was added in the day they passed the bill in the Senate. Virtually hours before they passed it, it was negotiated in at the very last moment. And that is the unemployment tax credits. It basically makes $10,200 of your unemployment income retroactively back for 2020 tax-free. So millions of Americans, in fact about 13 million of Americans, are expected to receive a tax refund or a stimulus check. This was a provision passed from the third stimulus check package that made this $10,200 of unemployment income tax-free. So if you were unemployed last year, you're going to probably be getting a refund from this the federal. I really need to note here too, you could actually be receiving an additional refund check from your state. So if you pay state taxes, the check you're waiting for is from the federal government. You could be receiving a additional check from your state. So keep that in mind as well. Well, the IRS says they're sending out 2.8 million checks this week to those who have already paid this unemployment taxes on unemployment income from last year. Again, the first $10,200 of unemployment income for 2020 will now be tax-free. So any taxes that you paid on that money, the IRS is going to be sending you out an additional check for that. And 2.8 million of those checks are going out this week. The average person is expected to receive about $1,000 check. Could be a little bit more, could be a little bit less. Can be as high as like $2,500 if you're in the 25% tax bracket. It's based on your tax bracket and your personal tax situation, but the average person is going to receive about $1,000. And the IRS says they're sending out the checks first to single filers, and married filing jointly and slightly more complicated tax returns are going to be sent out next. Also, as you can see here, the IRS announced today that 2.3 million more stimulus checks from the third stimulus check, the $1,400, is going out right now. As you can see here, more than 2.3 million stimulus checks were dispersed in the last 2 weeks in the latest batch of payments, according to the Internal Revenue Service, the IRS. That brings the total amount of payments to 169 million, including add-on payments for underestimated checks that were already sent out. Approximately $395 billion in stimulus payments have been sent so far. That's about 88% of the $450 billion earmarked for direct relief, which was interesting because that means there's $55 billion still left to go out. More than 900,000 of these payments were sent to people who previously didn't have information on file at the IRS, but recently filed a tax return. Hopefully, you took my advice on that and maybe got a check here recently. This batch also includes 1.1 million people's plus up stimulus checks for people that had their third stimulus check calculated based on their 2019 tax return, but are now eligible for a larger payment. That could be the case for people whose 2020 income was lower than their 2019 income, or they had a baby or a dependent added on to their 2020 tax return that qualifies them for a larger payment. The agency has sent more than 8 million of those payments this year as well. Now, if you're waiting on a regular IRS tax refund, you filed your taxes and you're waiting for your refund, well, there's two different groups of people. Number one, the IRS says the average person is going to wait 21 days for a refund. The IRS is extremely behind. They're dealing with all these different issues, as well as setting up a online portal and online website for the child tax credits, which are monthly checks that are going to start going out from the third stimulus check package of $250 per month for children ages 6 through 17 and $300 per month for children under the age of 6. And the IRS is setting up a website so you can log in and potentially change maybe your banking information, let the IRS know you had a new child, or anything like that. We don't really know the specifics of all the things you're going to be able to do once they open up this website. But I will keep you up to date when that opens, how to log in, all that good stuff here. Those monthly stimulus checks from the third stimulus check package called the child tax credits are expected to start in around a month on July 15th. But if you're waiting on a tax refund, you either wait around 3 weeks, which is if your tax return all goes as planned. If your tax return is pulled for a manual refund, or there's any delays or anything, I'm sorry, a manual processing, they're pulling literally tens of millions of IRS tax returns and processing them manually. And that puts you in another category where it takes 2 to 3 or even more months. I've had a lot of comments from you guys saying, that yes, you've been waiting 3 months for your tax refunds. And I hear you. The IRS is understaffed and overworked, especially with this pandemic, stimulus checks going out, these unemployment refund checks going out, child tax credits they're getting ready to prepare. So the IRS has a lot of different things going. Let me know, let our viewers know if you received your IRS refund or your IRS unemployment refund here within the next few days, or if you got it within the last few days. President Biden has currently stopped the negotiations with the Republicans over the first part of the next package, the infrastructure package, with Republicans. So President Biden has withdrawn from the negotiations. He's not happy with the negotiations at all. And there's two new bipartisan groups, actually two of them, that are now working on their own infrastructure packages, bipartisan, which means Republican support and Democratic support, to see if they can get these bills passed through Congress without the reconciliation process, which would means they would be able to pass it quicker and then move on to the next stimulus package and pass that through reconciliation, which I think there's almost no chance the Republicans and Democrats are going to come to an agreement for the next stimulus package. So this week is kind of crucial. The next few days are kind of crucial to see if they're going to be able to pass them separately or combine them and pass them together through a large reconciliation package. As you can see here, House moderates from the U.S. House of Representatives have just unveiled a new $1.25 trillion infrastructure plan. A bipartisan group of House moderates on today unveiled an 8-year, $1.25 trillion infrastructure package designed to help break the months-long impasse over President Biden's top domestic legislative priority. The framework offered by the 58-member Problem Solvers Caucus, do you remember them? They've been instrumental in getting some of the past stimulus packages passed, especially the second one, calls for more than $959 billion for traditional infrastructure, including highways, bridges, rails, airports, waterways, and $25 billion of that money would be set aside for electric vehicle infrastructure, including electric buses. The plan also calls for $74 billion of drinking water and wastewater systems, $71 billion for the electric grid and clean energy programs, $45 billion for broadband, and $10 billion for veterans housing. Pretty interesting there. Probably pretty good. In the coming days, the group, 29 Republicans and 29 Democrats, will offer proposals for how to pay for the package, but it is not backing tax increases that Biden and progressive Democrats want. About 762 billion of the package represents new spending. So that means the other money, which is about $500 billion, is going to come from stimulus money that has not been spent. We reported on this channel about a week ago or so that there's actually $2 trillion in stimulus money for various different programs that has not been spent yet. Now, out of that money was the $350 billion going to states, cities, and counties, of which a lot of these new stimulus programs on the state, city, and county level, stimulus checks like for California and New Jersey, and mortgage assistance, rental assistance, property tax assistance, and utility assistance are kind of becoming available right now, and we're going to see a lot more in the future. I'll link it to a video I just did a few days ago on the most recent one of that. I'll be updating you guys as we go forward every few days on new stimulus checks, new stimulus packages, new stimulus programs coming on the state level and the city level and the county level, because states and cities and counties are getting their own share of $350 billion. And all 50 states are getting this money, and they have to use a certain money of that, a certain portion of that money for programs that will directly benefit you guys, the state's residents. So I'll link you to my most recent video here at the end of this video. But the kind of thing going on right now, one of the negotiation talks, even between these bipartisan groups, is are they going to raise taxes? And also, are they going to use some of the stimulus money that's sitting there unused? So there's about $2 trillion of unused stimulus money that is kind of ripe for the picking. Some Democrats are calling to use that for the next stimulus check. So remember, they've spent about $400 billion on the last stimulus check right now. So that means that they could do 5 stimulus checks with the $2 trillion of $1,400. So when we talk about monthly stimulus checks, they could do 5 $1,000 monthly stimulus checks and not even have to spend any new money. So that's similar to these monthly stimulus check proposals from the Senate Democrats. That's for $2,000 monthly stimulus checks, or the one from the House of Representatives that is for a $2,000 one-time stimulus check, then followed by $1,000 monthly recurring payments. So remember, if we talking about $5,000 in stimulus checks that they could pass and still have money left over from this $2 trillion, they could pass a $2,000 one-time stimulus check, then followed by 3 $1,000 monthly recurring payments from this $2 trillion that is sitting there already passed from previous stimulus packages that hasn't been spent yet. Now, this is kind of one of the areas where the Democrats and the Republicans differ a little bit. President Biden, as well as most of the Democrats that speak out on the infrastructure package, want it to be all new money. They don't want to use the old stimulus money that might be earmarked for rental assistance, or it might be earmarked for states and cities, or it might be earmarked for restaurants and different programs, or it could be money that's just sitting there and not being used, okay? Democrats want to use all new money for the infrastructure package. Republicans vary, depending on who's talking about it, from using all the infrastructure package money, so roughly $1 trillion, and just taking it all from the old stimulus money that's sitting there and not using it for anything else like new stimulus checks. Republicans want to take away that $1 trillion and use it, or in this case, from the Problem Solvers Caucus, they want $700 billion, what was it, $723 billion of new money, and they want to take $500 billion of the old money, the money that's sitting there, and use it for the infrastructure package. Well, that's what Republicans want to do. Democrats don't want that. They want it to be all new money. And what's really interesting here is we could see a fourth stimulus check, or even a fourth and a fifth, from this money, this $2 trillion that's sitting there and has already been approved, but it's just sitting there and hasn't been spent. Okay. So they could easily take, remember, the fourth stimulus check, the $1,400, cost about $400 billion. They said it could go up to $450 billion. So for a nice round number, we'll say $400 billion, which is about what they've spent now on the third stimulus checks. And yeah, they could take $400 billion out of that $2 trillion, and there would still be $1.6 trillion left in there. Okay, so yeah, there's a lot of money sitting in there. Republicans want to use that for the infrastructure package so that they don't have to spend any new money. If you've been following along, I'm not partisan, I'm not Democrat, I'm not Republican. I'm just telling you guys what's going on. Republicans are always trying to be fiscally conscious. They don't want to add to the debt. The national deficit is like their arch enemy. They always want to spend less. Okay, if we look at all the last stimulus packages, a lot of times they draw the line around 1 trillion, and they've done the exact same thing for the infrastructure package as well. Democrats want to spend more and more and more and more and more. Now, you might be for that, you might be against that, but that's just kind of how the Democrats are. Whether you're a Republican or Democrat, you probably agree with me. And we've seen this from the third stimulus check package. They had the largest stimulus checks yet, $1,400. The largest stimulus checks for children, $1,400, which was more than double what they got before of only $500 to $600. And they included $1,400 stimulus checks for adult dependents who didn't even receive any stimulus checks at all before at all, and college students. We also seen this with the child tax credits. They increased this from $2,000, which former President Donald Trump actually raised the child tax credits from $1,000 to $2,000. The Democrats now raised that to $3,000 for children ages 6 through 17 and $3,600 for children under the age of 6. And they're going to start paying that out in monthly checks of $250 to $300 per month per child starting on July 15th. Again, more and more and more, larger, larger, larger. And it's no different for the next stimulus package or the next stimulus check, with all these Democrats actually pushing for not just a fourth stimulus check, but monthly recurring stimulus checks. Now, another kind of line in the sand that Republicans don't want to cross is any tax increases, any tax hikes. So right now, the Republicans are kind of they're saying that if there's any tax hikes at all, that they're not going to vote for it at all, and that will force the Democrats to use it through the reconciliation process if they get all their votes and all their eggs and ducks all aligned, right? So all the Republicans are saying they don't want any tax hikes at all, especially any undoing of the 2017 Trump tax cuts. Democrats, including President Biden, are generally for certain types of tax increases, including a tax increase on the 1%, the wealthy they call it, a tax increase on corporations. President Biden has two different proposals, one to raise the corporate tax rate from 21 to 28%, as well as another one to make a 15% minimum tax for all corporations. Probably, we don't know the details yet because it hasn't been passed into law, probably for corporations that make over $1 billion per year. And that's, yes, billion with a B. And that is because of headlines like this. Amazon paid no federal taxes on $11.2 billion in profits last year. Yes, and in fact, this goes on multiple different years for multiple companies like Amazon. Amazon is not the only one. Nike and multiple billion-dollar corporations in the past have paid $0 in federal taxes. And that's just because of the way the tax code is. In fact, as you can see here, from 2009 to 2018, Amazon paid an effective federal tax rate of only 3%. 3%. So the problem is that there's these corporations making billions of dollars in profit and paying $0 in taxes. That's right, zero. Or the years they do pay, they don't pay very much in a percentage wise in relation to their profits, because there's all these different tax loopholes and tax credits. And in fact, some of these large corporations actually get incentives from the government, from past packages were passed or past laws that were passed, that the government actually pays them billions of dollars or millions of dollars in certain circumstances because they get tax credits and incentives and rebates. So in some cases, corporations are not only paying the government $0 in federal taxes, but the government's actually paying them money for hiring people and for opening up shop in America and things like that. So changing that to a 15% minimum tax for corporations, which would mean if you make over $1 billion and you're going to be paying a minimum of a 15% tax, which is 15% is really not that much. It's pretty low when you look at taxes and corporate taxes across the world, and even income taxes. 15% is one of the lowest tax brackets. Okay, so this would shore up billions and billions of dollars every single year, and that's kind of what the Democrats want. Now, remember, and they would use this for stimulus packages and infrastructure package, Social Security raises, Medicare raises, all the things. that the Democrats want. However, the Republicans don't want to raise any taxes at all and are more in favor of use taxes like a gas tax, which means if you use the roads, you use the infrastructure, you pay for it a little bit at a time, a dime at a time with a gas tax. So gas, there could be an additional 10-cent gas tax or 20-cent gas tax. We don't know. Republicans are for that. Democrats are against that. So you can see both sides are kind of for infrastructure. I think they can make a deal with how much they want to spend, but how they're going to pay for it, if they're going to pay for it at all, is kind of the sticky point. And I say if they're going to pay for it at all, because if you've been watching this channel, you know a lot more than the average person out on the street knows, because the last 6 stimulus packages, nobody paid for them. The government already runs a deficit, which means they spend more money than they take in. Almost every single year from the history of time, well, I shouldn't say the history of time, but for many, many years, the government spends more than they take in. Okay. Well, in addition to that, on a normal year, they passed 6 stimulus packages, 5 from former President Trump. 2 of them had stimulus checks. The other 3 had other stimulus provisions in there that weren't checks, as well as 1 from Biden. And there were no tax raises. There were no use taxes. There was no tax increases on the weather. There was literally no tax raises. So who paid for them? Nobody paid for them because the government already is basically like racking up credit card debt. So if you spend more than you make, you're racking up credit card debt. That's what the government does every year. In addition to that, they passed the 6 stimulus packages on top of that. The only difference is the government prints their own money, and me and you, if you go into credit card debt, well, we can't really print our own money. We want the government to print it and give us a check for it, right? Or monthly checks or child tax credits or whatever it is. So, yeah, the government just spends more than they make every year, and it just goes on to the national deficit. And yeah, the government pays interest on the national deficit if applicable. I mean, there's no interest on stimulus checks. It's not really paid back. There's no interest rate. It's just kind of giving money back to the taxpayers in their time of need. But there's a possibility this next infrastructure and next stimulus package could not be paid for as well. They could just pass it without any tax hikes or tax increases, or possibly some tax hikes and tax increases, but not enough to pay for the full package. Maybe they get a little bit, right, but it only pays for 20%, and the rest just goes on the national deficit. So I think we've all learned a lot here over the last year or 2 years regarding how the government works and how they pass these packages. But they could pass these next 2 packages as well without any tax hikes, or they could pass it with full tax hikes and full use taxes. There's all sorts of different creative ways that they can pay for these next several packages or not pay for them at all. So let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. I'll keep you up to date on everything. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe down below. It's completely free to do so. Just click the subscribe button, and then after subscribing, click the bell icon to all notifications to get reminder notifications when we go live with new videos, which is every day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can click this video here to watch my newest stimulus check video next. And this video is all the states, cities, and counties that have announced stimulus check programs or other stimulus programs that could put money in your pocket. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks, guys, and I will see you in the next video.